Hello, everybody. Good evening. All right. I think we're good, Callie. All right, you guys, if you are live with us, please say hi. Let us know where you're watching us from. Help us share. The usual spiel that we usually give at the beginning. We'll give it a couple minutes before we get started here. So if you're live with us, let us know where you're watching us from. Hi, Jenny from Wisconsin. How are you? Okay, I'm good now. So if you're live, say hi. Let us know where you're watching us from. And also help us share. Oh, Jenny says, by the way, Callie, thanks so much for the free books. Were you doing a giveaway of your books? I mean, not
No,
for
it
your
was
book, but
I was trying to clear out
decluttering?
my library, and so I had a lot of books that I just didn't feel like throwing away. So Jenny, thanks for requesting. I was just at first I was like gonna either throw them away or recycle them, but then I was like, but these are like books I really actually
How
love,
many?
and I
I mean,
have
I
gotten
know
a
when I
lot of
told
things
you to
to
throw
do.
them away was a couple years ago, and there was a ton. Did you get rid of a lot of them?
I did, yeah. A lot of
Good.
people requested it, so I sent a
Yay, that's
lot of the
awesome.
ups out.
Yeah,
So yeah,
it's better than sending it to the Goodwill, right?
yeah.
That's awesome. Oh, well, Jenny, I hope you're enjoying the books. Callie's a huge reader, so she definitely was hesitant and throwing those books away a couple of years ago. So I'm proud of her for giving it away, and I hope that you enjoyed as much as she did.
I know, they're just such, like, good books, and I mean, I think it's always fun to, like, see what other people read in their libraries because I feel like that tells a lot about them, but then,
Yeah.
there's just so many, I think, like, if you're, like, in transition or, like, try because I have a lot of, like, self-help, but, like, development business books,
Mhm.
so I always, like, really enjoy that kind of material, so hopefully
Yep.
you
Me too.
got something out of those.
Yeah. Those are my favorite. In your book club that you're in right now with Linda, you guys are reading a book that I have. Well, it's actually not mine, it's news. I picked it up to read it on one of our flights, but you know how that goes. I never actually read it. I have it in my backpack. I just don't really pull it out. So I got to get to that one too.
Yeah, I haven't been reading probably for half of this year. I've just been so busy, so I haven't
Yeah.
read as much, but hopefully probably not next year either. I feel
It's
like,
busy.
yeah, I'm like, okay, I need to, I need to get some of my stuff that I have planned done. So it's like, I'll probably
Mhm.
just kind of wait, or if I'm on vacation or something, but
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot. All right, you guys. So just kind of throwing it out there. Today's show is sponsored by WACMA, a nonprofit out of Wisconsin that started the statewide initiative to address mental health for underserved communities. And so they implemented Project Resiliency. They now have a warm line. Kelly and I put out a video not too long ago with their phone number, but just in case you guys missed it, their number is 1 800 293 7080. So if you know a friend in need or if you need someone to talk to you, please utilize the warm line. It is there for us. It's a resource. So I'm just kind of throwing that out there for those of you who didn't see our video or are unaware of the warm line. And any updates, Kelly, from us?
no, but I do know that Facebook is doing they're giving free stars for you to give away. So please give us some
Send us your
stars.
free
Yes.
stars. Yes. Yeah, continue on that. It's just we continue to say it on every episode. Just your engagement, your shares, your stars, they all help us to continue doing what we're doing. So, yes, I think it's like 200 stars they give for free. So, send those to us, please.
And if you have anybody that you are wanting to watch, please definitely let us know. I know that I think sometimes people, they don't want to come on, or they don't feel like, oh, I don't really have anything interesting to come on. And so we are still looking for our lineup for 2023. And so definitely let us know if you would like to come on. If you're working on like a cool project that you want people to know about, or have a business or anything like that, please definitely let us know. We definitely want to bring you on and hear your story.
Yeah. Or just a topic you're passionate about too. I think that's oftentimes we forget that, it's not just people who do a whole bunch of stuff that, has something to talk about. I think we all have a experience or, something to share. So if it's you specifically where, you have something you're passionate about, please reach out to Callie and I. We would love to formulate some sort of agenda and bring you on to kind of talk about that as well. All right. So I will pass it over to Callie to introduce our guest for tonight for our show.
Okay, so tonight we have Hmongoose, and if you follow his page but don't know him personally, one of our questions is about the origin of that name, because I was definitely really curious how that came about, because it was just had the word Hmong in there, but it was like goose, so quite interesting. And so Hmongoose's real name is Long Her, and so Long Her has had the pleasure of wearing many different hats. He is mostly recently and notably a presence online as a digital content creator under his handle Hmongoose, where he focuses on a plethora of entertainment activities ranging from musical concerts and artists to sporting events and athletes. He has 25 plus years of experience in the Hmong music industry, where he considers himself a Hmong music historian when he films other artists. In 2020, he parted ways with Paradise to pursue these personal endeavors. He is married and has 6 children, all of whom love competitive swimming and music. And then for his 9 to 5, he is a physician's assistant in sports medicine, orthopedic surgery. So we will also be talking about that, because I think that is super, super cool. And then in his free time, he enjoys teaching religion and Christian spirituality. So as you can see, very, very broad interests, but I feel like that's what also adds to just the content that he creates, but also like who he is as a person. So with that, we are going to bring him on.
Hello.
Hey, Yojong.
How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. It's warm in Fresno today, relatively.
We're jealous because it's been raining and cold here in the Pacific Northwest. So
we had a lot of rain this weekend, but it's actually pretty nice now.
Yeah. I think our weather says it's going to start snowing next weekend too. So
I hope it's a white Christmas.
I know. Not sure.
Very good.
Well, welcome to our show. Thank you so much for making time for Callie and I. We really appreciate that. Let's just kind of dive right in. Yeah, Callie gave a really good high level of just your experience and kind of what you've been doing. But I think for those of you who don't know about Hmongoose or Long, know that he is from Paradise. So that's kind of where we're gonna start off, right? So you started out with Paradise.
Yeah.
Can you just kind of tell us a little bit more about that, and how was that experience like?
Sure. Foremost, thank you guys. I can't thank you guys enough for having me. First time I'm being interviewed outside of I usually interview, but first time I'm actually being interviewed. So it's actually really pleasant. So for those who don't know me, but Long Her. And for those who are familiar, then I previously was in Paradise. I actually got involved when I was fairly young, about 14. And then what happened was, well, Paradise First of all is mostly family. And so my brother-in-law, he would see me playing on a keyboard. My cousin who lived with us, who went to Fresno City College, he kind of dropped out of a piano class, but he left his keyboard. And so I would play the keyboard anywhere from 4 to 6 to 8 hours a day. and
Wow.
so Fong, I think you guys had Fong and my sister Misty. So Misty's my older sister, and Fong is my
Ah,
brother-in-law. So to make
okay.
it full circle. So at the time, Fong was dating Misty, and he would come over. Oh, here's this little kid playing his keyboard, and he would leave like 4 hours later. Oh, that kid's still playing keyboard. And so the hardest thing about keeping a band together, Callie and Olivia, is keeping the band together because a lot of
Mhm.
people come and they go, and so they had gone through several other members, and so they decided, okay, well, why don't we just invest in this kid and train him to be a good musician? And so that's what they did. When I started Paradise, I absolutely sucked, just like everyone else. Just like it doesn't matter where you start, you're gonna suck. And then what you find is over time, people start saying, like my family members, I remember them telling me, "Oh, don't play anymore. It sounds bad." And then over time, then you have people, those same family members, then come up to you and say, "Hey, can you play at this wedding?" And then the rest just becomes history. And so I joined Paradise when I was very young, and then for the most of my adult life, it was Paradise from 14 until I graduated college, pretty much. And then so I had the opportunity to travel and see different communities and whatnot. Um, and so yeah, that's how uh, I became a part of Paradise, and we were the first to actually play at Minnesota State Fair under Thunza. Folks, if folks that know far enough know that we were the first ones to play there. And then I think we were the first Hmong band like in 2017 when we did our concert to do meet and greets, because at the time they doing meet and greet. And so we decided, okay, why don't we do this weird thing called a meet and greet, and we'll have people, they'll pay a little bit more, they'll come in. And then what we did actually for the first meet and greet to that people had the context is that we let them in early, and then we let them sit in the we actually let them sit where they would sit in the VIP area, and then we actually did like a mini concert with like an hour Q&A, and then we let them walk and tour the stage, and then we gave them a T-shirt and a poster, and it was extravagant. And so I think Trey might correct me, but I think we were the first one to do meet and greets, and so it's been really interesting with Paradise, and of course I had to part ways. So,
Yeah.
mhm. So yeah.
I was gonna say somehow I don't know if where I heard that story of you playing the piano. I don't know if it was Fung or Misty or I don't know that story. Maybe I heard you sharing that. I don't know. That story just sounds
It
really
was
familiar.
probably me because that's how I remember it. I don't know. I
Yeah.
think that's how Fong remembers it too, but that's
Yeah.
how I remember it. I just remember, I don't know what it is. It's like I tend to be detail oriented, so I would sit and I would say, okay, the song at the time was Richard Marx "Right Here Waiting," so I would just play that little riff all day long until I could play it. And then
Yeah.
so that's why I think he saw that and he knew, okay, this guy could probably play anything if he wanted to. And
Yeah.
so, yeah,
So what? So how old were you when you joined then?
I was 14. I would never ever let my 14-year-old join with a bunch of adult men. Now that I think about it, I'm like, I think because at a point, Fong became your yi,
Mhm.
so they got married, and then my parents like, okay, if you really want to take him, then you take him. But my parents, they're as traditional Hmong as they can come.
Mhm.
Just get your doctorate. That's all that matters. Become a doctor, lawyer, nothing else. I did move in that path, and so the way I consoled them is that I said, oh, I'll do both.
Mhm.
I'll do both. I'll become a doctor and do this music thing. And of course, that clearly did not happen, although it could have happened. But yeah, and so my parents, they did not support music when I was very young. When I was 16, um, I had a brother who got into trouble. So my life is not perfect, far from it. I had a brother who was jailed, and my dad was so concerned. I'm like a nerd more than anything else, and my dad was so concerned that he said, okay, what I'll do is I'll give you a choice, long. But he said it Hmong, of course. He said, "What do you want? Ko you look che or ko you look keyboard? Because I didn't have a keyboard. I had my cousin's janky $50 keyboard." I said, "What do you want?" And so I told him I want a keyboard. I could drive some other time, but I need a keyboard now. And so, and I remember my dad. I hope he doesn't watch this, but I remember being really sad because under his breath he said to me, "If your brother wasn't in jail, I would not have done this." and and so my parents are very traditional. Even to this day, my dad still doesn't. When I go film for Hmongoose, he's like, "Oh, he'll call my wife, hey, why aren't you guys in town?" Because usually when I go out of town to film, I take my kids and my wife, but they go do their fun, wonderful thing as I film. And he always says, "Oh, I'm like, yeah." It's like an inside joke between me and my dad, but my dad knows.
It's
You know,
funny.
he knows. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So what was
awesome.
the age gap then? You were the youngest, but
I was the youngest. I think Fong was in college at that time. Yeah,
oh
they were in college.
wow.
My sister Fong and my sister, they didn't date very long, and they got married. But they were in college, so they were it was at least 5 to 6 years gap. I was the
Mhm.
youngest, like enough such that my interest was different. I think that's what made Paradise different, because you had these guys that were doing the traditional Hmong stuff, and you had this stupid little kid who wanted to rap and then do all this other stuff. And so that's what made Paradise a little bit interesting, because I would throw in this, I would push him to do like really unorthodox stuff. Like I would say, "Hey, why don't instead of just playing music, why don't we dance?" We to this day we still are the only Hmong band that played live. Then we cleared the floor and then we danced on the floor. I
Oh
have footage
wow.
of that. No one has. I haven't seen a band do that. Never.
Yeah.
No. Like just imagine like Deng Tao. Okay, clear the floor. We're gonna come and dance now. Awful. But you know, at the time, in retrospect, when we look at the footage now, we vomit to it. But in retrospect, at that time, people loved it. It was so
Hmm.
different.
So
So
did
Yeah.
you dance to your songs or did
yeah,
you
we
dance
had
to
wireless microphones and we were dancing and
They were like,
singing.
yeah, it was like
like
back in the day. Like Mika
like
would do it all
singing
the
and
time.
dancing?
We
Like
would sing and dance to our
that's
own music or their own
awesome.
track. It was so different. It was like no band has done it. No
Yeah.
band to this day
Yeah.
does it. Like no, like either you have dedicated musicians that would play their music, but you don't have people that actually clear the floor and say, "Okay, we're gonna do the boy band thing now. Here we go." And so
Mhm.
that's why Paradise is notorious for being a boy band, because that's what we kind of did. We cleared the floor, and yeah,
Yeah.
very
How
different.
fun. Yeah. Very different times. I love it though.
Yeah.
So just kind of going back to I mean, it sounds like you had a good I mean, just a lot of memories with them. So how was it leaving? Like was that and like what
Oh, that
made you decide that it was time to move on?
yeah. Okay, so for the record, it was the hardest thing. Okay, it's like a divorce.
Hmm.
It was like a divorce. It was like a death. Like I can't even describe. Even to this day, I'll be honest with you. I like when I left, I feel bad because number one, they're my brother-in-laws. But when I left, it was so hard for me that I did not provide an explanation. I still haven't formally provided an explanation. I just wrote an email saying I'm leaving for personal reasons. I still got the email. I don't even read the email. I don't dare read that email. But so here, so that people understand properly, um, I think it was good that we talked about my age, because I grew up in Paradise. Like
Hmm.
I loved Paradise for what it was, but to a certain way, it robbed me of my childhood, because like at that time, Hmong mà cho Loma, they go to Ball and New Year, because this New Year right now.
Hmm.
New Year, I did not have the New Year because most of those guys, they were all married. I was the only one that was single. And so I never got to ball really, like people go around dressed up. No, we were stuck at the stinking music booth selling CDs. And so when I grew up, Paradise was my family. Like Paradise, I know Paradise more than some of my family members. And that's how I made all my decisions. I always
Hmm.
made it like I was a family member. And Paradise got to a point where it became, as we got older, it became a business. And
Hmm.
so, believe it or not, all through those years, I made all of my decisions, business decisions, based on what I felt in my heart. They were not business decisions, they were like family based from my heart. And then one day I had to make a business decision. And then so I made a business decision. So I had to leave. And
Hmm.
so, without saying a whole lot, you guys understand.
Yeah.
But I had to make a business decision because I had to be true to myself too, what I wanted to do, and there are certain things that were different, that the band as a whole is drifting apart. And these are, I mean, again, in the grand scheme of things, these are my brother-in-laws, and so
Hmm.
I couldn't just I wasn't going to burn any bridges. I loved
Yeah.
them too much, and though the family came first, so I said, okay, it's better if I leave and do this other thing than cause too much drama and then ruin our relationship. And so
Yeah.
things aren't perfect. They're still a little rough on the edges, but we still love each other and still family. So when you say about leaving, it's like, oh, that's such a hard topic to talk about because I don't think truly, I don't think I've come to terms with it. I mean, it's been
Mhm.
2.5 years.
Mhm.
And a part of me says, oh, I probably should have never left. But another part of me says, I'm so glad I left because I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing if I didn't leave.
Yeah.
So
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I think
Mhm.
when you, I mean, something that you've been in for a very long time and collectively with a group, and then, yeah, it's like you don't want to let them down, but you also
yeah.
have your life that you kind of want to live on your own too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hmm.
All right. So, of course, your page is Mongoose, and I remember asking you this when we did the pre-call because I was like,
Yeah.
"Where did this come?" It's so unique and it's memorable. So, how did you come up with Mongoose?
I actually, it's a weird story. A couple of things. Someone had mentioned he likes the bike, the mongoose bikes, not the mongoose bikes. It is actually the mongoose animal, actually, in itself. And when I first made mongoose, I made this cringy video way about 2 years ago explaining what mongoose was. But basically, I really like the concept of the mongoose animal. Nu kind of nu kind of nu kind of good and bad at the same time. Kind of like it kills snakes, but bites birds too. Like we were on a, if you guys have been to Honolulu, if you take that Kahlua Ranch tour, and they talk about the mongoose, they brought the mongoose to kill the rat, but then the mongoose ends up killing all the birds, which was really bad. That's why Hawaii used to have all these exotic birds that are all dead now.
Mm.
But the mongoose, this concept of this animal that kind of does what it wants. And so I wanted people to although I don't use the animal at all, but it's the concept. And so mongoose is after that animal. I have friends that were martial artists, and when you're like in when this specific type of martial arts, when you reach the mongoose style, it's kind of like fifth degree black belt. But one of my friends, good friends, he was doing the mongoose. I was like, well, that looks very different from anything else you're doing. And it just really kind of, spiritual animal, I guess. I thought, okay, that makes me a mongoose. But then I wanted people to immediately identify with Hmong. So I put an H in front of it so that people would say, okay, it's not just a mongoose, but it's a mongoose. So that it when it would bring the question, why'd you put an H? And
Mhm.
so for me, it was good to identify myself as, okay, yeah, this animal, but that's why I chose it. And so
Mhm.
I thought it was
Yeah,
really
that's
cool.
that's
So,
so clever. It's such a clever way to,
Mhm.
use that, and also let us know that because I've never heard of that animal before. So,
a mongoose.
yeah,
Oh,
I never heard of one.
have you
Like,
guys
I
heard
never knew
that,
there was a
there's that
mongoose.
childhood book, Ricky Tikki Tavi? Um,
Mm-mm.
okay, they don't. When I was a kid, when I was a kid, we used to read it. And so Ricky Tikki Tavi, no Sarabi, and it's about a family mongoose that kills a snake and saves a kid, and that's also probably
Mhm.
part of the reason why.
I see. Well, I think it matches Hmong people very well because you
Yeah.
just said, like the Hmongoose, they kind of do whatever they want.
Oh,
So do
that's
Hmong
so
people.
Hmong people. That's so Hmong people. Like
Exactly.
Hmong people, you do not want to get on their bad side because man, they will bite you. But they don't. Kapag Hmong ah, if you're on their, like I tried to explain to my surgeon, okay, his name is Steve. Steve, just get Hmong people on your side because if they're on your side, you're protected for life.
Mm,
But if Hmong people are against you, you're screwed.
yeah.
Screwed. And that's how Hmong people are. But and that's good and that's bad. But for
Yeah.
me, that's mostly good. Just don't be on our bad side. So
Yep. Yep. That's
yeah.
right. Well, thank you so much for sharing your experience with Paradise and just kind of giving us a little background about Mongoose.
Maybe too much
Um,
better.
Obviously, with the Mongoose platform, we've seen you a lot on social media, just kind of
Hmm.
providing a platform for
Yeah.
music artists. We see you at concerts recording and
Getting in the way of
doing
the
a
show. I'm
whole
sorry.
bunch of stuff, which is awesome. But kind of when did you first start getting into like social media?
So it started actually. So I think it may have been like March or April that I left Paradise. I didn't come out with Mongoose until like December, I want to say, probably this
Mhm.
time 2 years ago. And I started to film like I had done kind of like amateur photography, And so I had my little Sony camera, but the Gutai was I record because a big thing for me, in my little bio, I kind of said Hmong historian, music historian. There's a little history behind that too, because what happened was when I left Paradise, then I started to reminisce. Oh, I want to see my old Paradise stuff, but there was none, and the stuff that was there was blurry and no good. Because at that time, you wanted a video camera, you had a big
Mhm.
camera on your shoulder, and so there was none. And so my main stick was, um no, I want to document stuff for other artists. I didn't quite figure that out till last year though. But um when in looking back, you ain't through shit. And there's no good footage of me, like that young phase of my life. There is no, like, on stage. There's very minimal. And so I decided, okay, well, I'm gonna document what I do in Hmongoose then. So I'm gonna create this little vlog, and we're gonna do this family thing. um and then we're gonna do, if anyone's crazy enough to look way back in my vault and on my YouTube, I use this thing called MFC, which I have not touched on all of it yet. But M is for music, which I have; medicine, which I have not; um, family, which I have; faith, which I have not yet; and then culture cultivation. So that's MFC, and that's what Mongoose really is. But when I started to film, I noticed that, oh man, quality is no good. Like, that's not what I want to record. I don't want to record, like, if I want to make history, record history, regardless of whether one person sees it or a million people see it. I don't want to record it in so quality. So I took on this huge endeavor to learn how to do videography. Oh, so Mongoose, for the record, is music. It's not
Mhm.
videography, but that's all I do now, videography.
Mhm.
So there's a story behind that too, because the next phase of Mongoose is going to be music, which will be interesting. But then I started I love my wife loves me so much. Like, I was saying to a friend, your wife loves you when she lets you buy all this stuff. And so my wife is like, she knows me so well. She's told me, Long, do not buy crap. I'm sorry, do not buy bad stuff, because you're gonna end up upgrading it in 6 months. So don't even bother buying that. So she says, look for the good stuff so that it'll retain itself for a couple years at least. And so I
Mhm.
started filming in high quality, and then I started out with filming family stuff. And you guys know, as content creator, there's stuff that you want to film, that you think people want to see, and you breaks your heart when you find out, nah, they didn't care for any of that.
Mhm.
It was my own thing. It was this other thing that, it's been so many times where I'll film stuff and I think it's great, and then people don't respond, or I'll feel some stuff, like, I'll just throw it out there, and then it just goes on fire.
Mhm.
But that's what it started out as. And then I started filming, and then I just thought, okay, well, wouldn't it be nice if because I had gone through this thing where I was looking for footage of myself and I couldn't find it. And I just thought to myself, wouldn't it be great for me to film other artists, and then have it in really good quality? And then wouldn't it be cool if I showed it to them afterwards? And so the first person that I showed it to was Dang Tao. So he was crazy enough to agree to it, and then it just kind of took off from there. Because then it went to Dang Tao, then it went to Chenning, and then it went to David, and then it went to Kule Ku. And I think I've interviewed 80% of the artists now.
Mhm.
And every single one of them, because I knew some of them don't agree, or they're not speaking out against it, but I knew that they eventually would want to see themselves, whether it be now or 15 years ago. In 15 years ago, they're going to watch and they're going to say, dang, he was right. I am going to want
Mhm.
to watch this footage. And so that's what it's been about. That's the part where I talk about being a musical historian, because they're going to want to see this footage. And that's where I am now. I just filmed Hua and Win. I just filmed Dang Tao's concert. I won't put any of that footage out, and like much of that out, until probably after the concert. Hopefully I can go live with Win and Hua and talk to them about what it's like to be in America, because no one actually has talked to them about that.
Mhm.
And which is an interesting conversation. And so that's kind of what I do for the most part now, besides weird side projects like Aiden Tao. I cover
Mhm.
Aiden a lot. I've gotten really close to Aiden. Um, and so it's just a little side project. I wish I could tell you guys I knew exactly what I'm doing. I actually don't.
Yeah.
But I'm just figuring it out, just like everyone else. Like yeah, I don't want to blab. So more or
Yeah.
less, yeah, that's what I do as a creator. And you guys know, you just find out what works for the community, where you belong. It wasn't really until I started talking about music, that's when I realized that, oh snap, I know a lot about music. especially about Hmong music history. Because if you put the right person in front of me, we can talk hours about Hmong music history,
Mhm.
on and on and on and on. And that's when I realized that, oh, there is some value, and the real here's the real issue. I talk about things that I think people aren't talking about, but should be talking about. 你讓你嗰邊墮落塔啦，
Yep.
你邊度去塔一塔啦。Like you guys know, you guys put up some great important topics, and if you don't talk about it, then other people are going to talk about it for you. Like for example, for a while I lived in the Bay Area in Berkeley, very very liberal, kind of open-minded area of the Bay Area, and I came from Fresno, which is the most conservative part of California. It's the Valley, all farmers. And what would happen is I would see their news outlet. They would have newspapers, and they would report news a certain way, especially news that happened in Berkeley. And what I noticed was that when I came back to Fresno, the mainstream media would report the news one way, but this independent paper would report it completely different from the community point of view. And that's when I learned that one day Hmong people need to create our own bubble. You know, whatever's important to us, let's talk about it. We're the people at the front lines, not anyone else. And all these issues, we take care of it. And it disappears. And so it's this whole issue of if we don't create our own narrative, then that means you're allowing other people to create it for you. And that's what Mongoose is. And because Gupong Daosha music, then that's what I kind of focus on. The artists and capturing their memories for them, because people always forget the artist does not get to see themselves perform ever. That they don't know what effect they have on the people. And so that's what I try to capture. And I haven't had one artist who said, "Oh man, that wasn't valuable." Every time they see themselves in front, they're like, "Whoa, that's pretty cool." So
That's awesome. So like as a, you alluded to this earlier, but so as a content creator, do you feel like you create things that you really enjoy, or do you feel like you are now starting to create, and especially as your platform has grown, right? Do you create things that you feel like would get the views and the engagement?
no, I enjoy it. If I didn't enjoy it, trust me, I wouldn't do it. Only there's stuff that I really enjoyed, but like I enjoy family stuff, like film my family do stuff. But I realized that nobody wants to watch that. Nobody wants to watch me and my kids. Although I do put it up only because for history's sakes. Like my kids swim, I specifically want to record when they start and they really suck, so that when they get really good, they can look back and say, "Oh yeah, on this date, Dad put on Mongoose us swimming, and man, we were so bad at that time." That type of stuff I'll do, but there isn't. I don't do anything that I don't sincerely like. Because Mongoose it we're talking about that issue of musicians being full time or part time. I'm part time. I'm not even part time. I do it because I love it. That's it. The reason why I don't do it full time is because if I do it full time, I wouldn't love it anymore. I would be too dependent on it, and that's just my personality. Some people don't agree, which is cool. But when I do something independent full time, I tend to not like it as much. Right? I tend to burn out, and so I only do things that I like. If I don't do it, people know if they ask me to do something, I'll tell them, no, but if it's usually music or arts related, then I'll do it. Like for example, I haven't posted yet, but next Thursday I'm going to interview Ryan Munch from Sacramento, who did the break dancing contest. I put a break dancing final video up. Oh yeah, I'm going to interview him, and that's just entertainment. And yeah, I'm just having the time of my life. But the funny thing is, there's so much to do. I don't have time to do it anymore. Like people are approaching me, and then some people I'm having to turn down because I just don't have the time for it. But yeah, I really enjoy it. I don't do anything unless I really like it.
Yeah, that's good. And then for anybody that's starting out and wanting to be a content creator, what would you say like that helps you to stand out, and how should people try to stand out?
I think it's really simple actually. But it's a painful process. You guys know 4 years. Don't quit. Most people quit before they even get there. We have to remember that, this is us getting techie and nerdy now, but YouTube, Facebook, there's an algorithm behind it. So like when you're starting to grow, it's very discouraging because there's what you want to do, and then there's what people like for you to do. And so you have to come to terms with what you like and what people like, and you can't force what you like on them. Otherwise, it fails miserably. You kind of have to find what kind of works. But the hard part, as you guys know, is there's something with this algorithm where the follower but once you reach a certain threshold, then it just kind of snowballs after that. And so I would say people that want to do content creation, number one, be very patient. You have to endure. And then it's like an art. You have to get better and better at it. But the only way you can get better at it is you just do it more and more and more. And I saw there was a post online that I saw that basically said, don't be discouraged if people don't like or respond, but know that someone's watching. And so you have to kind of continue, and then you find eventually you see what people respond to, and you have to know what you're good at. Okay. You have to, not only do you have to be good at it, but you have to like doing it. Because you or go all for the likes and shares. Yeah, you're gonna burn out. If you do not authentically like it, you will burn out eventually. But if you just do it at your own pace, and when you need a break, take the break. Like, I love to film, but I hate to edit. I hate editing. But that comes with the territory. But I think when you create content, create what you like and be patient about it. Because something that I've had videos where I've made it and like, oh man, no one's even looking at this. And then like 4 months later, people are like, whoa, what's this? They're looking at it. And I would say do it because it's a great way to meet people. I've met so many artists that I would have never met because like in Paradise, you're super competitive because you're competing against people, right? It's so great because now I let go of the competitive nature. And my only desire now is to promote other people. And life is so much more fun when you promote other people because they're in it. And you don't, you share you but if you put others first, your channel will grow. If you make it about completely you, then you'll struggle because you can only do so much. And the interesting thing is I don't do anything about me anymore. It's all about other artists and other people and other endeavors. And when you're authentic with people and and it's very clear to them, then people are very cooperative. There's only like 1 or 2 artists I've met that just ghosted me. But for the most part, people are like, yeah, yeah. And it helps a little bit to be from Paradise so they know who I am. They kind of trust, like, yeah, it gets you certain privileges. But I think if you're courteous, then you could do the same too. Yeah. So I guess that would be my advice. Yeah.
Yeah, all very good advice. Kelly and I second everything you say.
Yeah.
So obviously you've had Hmongoose for what, two
2
years
years.
now, going on 2 years.
Yeah.
Are you currently monetizing on Hmongoose? Are you comfortable chatting about that?
I can chat about that. So Mongoose was really interesting. I actually started with YouTube, and so I worked my butt off to get monetized on YouTube. It was really, really hard because at the time, if you remember, it's always good to know history. Remember that at a point, people were saying Facebook does not monetize well.
Right.
And for a long time, it did not monetize well, but that's not the case anymore. But so it was a huge YouTube endeavor. And that's why you don't see much stuff on YouTube because now I'm trying to grow my Facebook side. And so I am monetized also on YouTube, which in retrospect, I thought was hard. No, Facebook is hard. Facebook is hard to monetize on. And you can do both. So I am now monetized on Facebook very recently. But Facebook was interesting because I had a Facebook account, but Facebook, yeah. I was just like, I don't get this. Like, what are all these pages and what's a personal page versus a public page? And then finally you kind of work through it, you do enough research, and you're like, oh, that's how it works. And then once you understand how it works, then it can be, like I said, snowballing. And so I am monetized. I haven't been working very much on my YouTube as of late, but mostly Facebook. But I just literally like the other day, as I put a win video up, this one, and this is how a testimony to how interactive the internet is. This one person said, "Are you going to put this on Facebook?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. I'll put it on." I'm like, "Will you put this on YouTube?" And I put it on YouTube. And so, yeah, so I am monetized. It is a relatively long, painful journey, but there are people that are really good at it, like Alex Pham. He's really good at it. He's
Mhm.
so I don't do TikTok or like Instagram. I don't have a I am there, but I'm kind of clueless as to how to
Mhm.
do it. And it's a little bit harder for people that are older because I can't. It's hard for me to do like a 15-second thing. I always want more content, like meaningful content, not just a
Mhm.
swipe. So eventually it'll make sense to me. But yeah.
But they're changing the algorithm out quite a bit now too. I feel like once people catch on, it changes constantly. And
Mhm.
so I have been following a lot of like content creators who provide advice on content creation, right?
Yeah, it's always changing.
Yeah, and they are all saying that now it's more about the longer, meaningful
Mm,
stories and people's personalities versus
yeah.
like the 3 to 7 to 15 second videos of just
I think maybe people
something
just got
really
burnt out
short.
of that.
Yeah, I think people are wanting to that human connection is missing from these
Yeah,
little short snippets. And so
yeah.
I think that you will do just fine with your long videos
Well,
now.
yeah, the hardest thing was transitioning. You guys know from Facebook to Meta. When they went to
Mhm.
Meta, I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Just when I thought I understood it, and they changed it to Meta, and everything changes. So,
Yeah, including the pay scale.
well, I
That
didn't know about
changed
that.
too.
I didn't know about
Yeah,
that. I don't know if that was good or bad. I didn't know any better. And
it's
so,
not good, at least
mm,
for us.
mm.
Yeah. So how long did it take you to monetize?
um, well, YouTube took me probably like a solid year and a half because I
Mhm.
didn't know what the heck I was doing, and I was putting out stuff that people didn't care for.
Yeah.
But it really takes one or two things only. You go well, the get viral, nah, then it's
Mhm.
fast.
Mhm.
Um, but then you guys know YouTube. It's like 1,000 followers and 4,000 hours or something like that, which is really easy now. Looking
Yeah.
back at it, Facebook actually was harder work, but actually faster. Like I didn't get serious about Facebook until maybe like March, and I got
Mhm.
monetized. I want to say September or October.
Mm.
It's just like Facebook it just made sense to me because no more content, huh? And you could
Mhm.
write more and you can interact more. Not that people necessarily cared, but it just happened that way. I think I got lucky because I got some good videos of especially of Guvalong Chua.
Mhm.
There's a video that I have of him at Springfest where that's I want to say 500,000 views.
Yeah.
Um, and so, of course, none of that's well monetized, but it was what got me there. I wish it was, but that's what
Mhm.
kind of got me there. You have to find that one thing that just says it. And then it's kind of weird now because now people are just kind of watching. Yeah.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I definitely feel like because our audience is Hmong, and so I feel like Hmong people are more on Facebook than on YouTube, and I feel like YouTube is
Hmm.
really good for like music videos, but and just kind of looking at other people, what they're doing. I feel like Facebook is really easy, and lots
Yeah.
of
More
people on
engaging.
Facebook.
Yeah. YouTube, it seems to be like the new Google, in my opinion. When I'm
Mhm.
looking for like musical gear or gear,
Mhm.
I'll look into YouTube. But for like vlogging and like sharing and discussing, definitely Facebook. Um, yeah, it's two complete different. Like if I was to put out music, I would put it on YouTube for sure. Although you can do it on Facebook too. I'll probably end up doing both.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with what you said, Callie. They're completely two different purposes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I don't know, I know you said you use Restream, so because
Mhm.
we stream directly to our YouTube and then Facebook
Correct.
as well. So I
Yeah.
don't know if you do that now. That makes it a little bit easier, so you don't have to spend time, especially if you do your lives.
Yeah. So when I do restream, I go to three places. I go to my YouTube, I go to my two Facebook pages, and it was great to figure that out. But the one thing I don't know what StreamYard does to it, but restream when you do that with Facebook, it gives you no that your live minutes to get
Mhm.
live monetization. It does not count
Mhm.
any of those restreams
Oh,
Oh.
really? Like none of like your it
for
doesn't give
for
you for
restream.
Facebook?
No, it does not count
For
any of that. Any of my live sessions as live monetization
really?
minutes.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's basically Facebook saying, "Hey, you need to stream directly from us, or we're not going to count any of your minutes." I
Yeah.
don't really care. I don't really care. So
That's
Right, because
interesting.
it's
Yeah.
not that, yeah, it's not like we're
yeah,
it's At least for us, it's pretty nominal. So
Yeah.
okay, so we've talked about you being paradise, you content creating, but you also do one other thing that I would think primarily pays the bills, right? And so you had made a promise to your dad to be a doctor, and then you ended up being a PA. So can you talk to us about, just how you decide on this path and how you got here today?
Yeah, so I remember like at the final Paradise concert, I straight up told everyone on top on the stage. I said, "All right, I'm leaving because I want to go to medical school," and that was actually the plan. But life has its own ways, and so I remember in my undergrad I worked as a scribe, which is kind of like someone who writes in the ER for the doctors. If you're familiar, I remember this one doctor coming up to me and he said, "You know what? You guys should consider becoming a PA." And I was like, "No way, PA! I'm gonna become an MD, not PA. I want to become an MD, a full. I'm the real deal." And I didn't think about it. And then I moved to the Bay Area. I met my wife, she's the most beautiful, most wonderful person. And we got married. And I was like, at that point, I was like, yeah, okay, you're pregnant. It's cool. I'll just go into medical school. It'll be like 7, 8 years, and the kid will be 8. And then that's when reality hit. Because what happened was, in the birthing room, it was the weirdest thing. I described this to all the people that follow me as a PA. I thought it was the weirdest thing because I wanted nothing but medical school after Paradise. And then, like, crowning. You guys know what the crown is? When the baby starts to crown and comes out. And it was the weirdest thing when I saw my son crown out of my wife. Someone just flipped a switch. Like, God just flipped a switch. And internally, like biologically, I just knew I'm not going to medical school no more. I'm going to become a PA. It's that simple. Because I was like, I'm not interested in committing 8 years anymore. I'm going to do the 2 to 3 years as quickly as possible. And I'm going to be a good dad. And so my own desire to become an MD at that point was like, nope, like gone, like no desire, zero. To this day, my dad is pissed. But I had no desire. And so I started wanting to become a PA. And basically, you just need your undergrad. You need to have a BA degree. The baseline degree that they want you to have is a master's degree. So most PA programs right now are a master's degree program. I do have a master's in PA and then also in public health, because this program that I was in forced you to get both. The public health I don't use anymore, but it's good background to have. And then during rotation, I always thought that I was gonna go to school, come back to Fresno, and then work as a primary care provider for the Hmong community. That didn't happen because I'm not doing any family practice at all. Don't ask me anything about diabetes. I do not know nothing about diabetes anymore. Ask me about sports injuries. But what happened was, during rotation, one of my last rotation, I did a surgery rotation, sports orthopedic, like what's surgery rotation in Bakersfield, and it was awful. I hated it. I absolutely hated it, which is what I'm doing now. And then during my last rotation, which was supposed to be a family rotation, the doctor ends up having a stroke. But the only thing I know is I want to rotate in Fresno, where my kids and my family are. And so my clinical director says, "Well, there's this one place in Fresno, but it's surgery." And I was like, "Oh crap, I don't want to do that." And so I actually ended up doing that, but it was a private practice, and then I just fell in love with it because it's kind of like the difference. Go come with hotel to ship pay. Like let's say you got in your main, that you con G to May but pay you going in your main until that one day con G to May and she on you could really be near done not your mate more. And so it's kind of like that. I just met the right surgeon in sports medicine, and we just got really well along. A really funny story. He asked me 2 things. He asked me. First thing was the first thing he asked me was, "Do you do drugs?" I was like, "No, I don't do drugs." The second thing he asked me was, second thing he asked me was, "What do you do?" And I tell him I play in the band. I used to play in the band, Paradise, and then that was literally as we were doing surgery, and then I don't think anything of it. And then the next day, it turned out that Google, he Googled and YouTubed all of it. And so where I say that Paradise has been a blessing is because I think a part of the reason why you hire Gu because you you do all this other stuff too. So if in full circle, Paradise come back around and benefits me because I think that's one of the things that stuck me out from all the other people. So he never interviewed me. He just says basically, 你的after the rotation 你的ก็可能apply 咯，每個 and you don't lose because 你的 PA 都到 yeah. And so that's my first job as a PA and that's my only job as a PA. I've only done sports medicine and so I've been fortunate. I consider myself pretty lucky. I work with the Fresno State women's soccer team, basketball team, and volleyball team. So I get to do that on the side. And then I get to do the only thing that's not good is like which Hmong. The Hmong go ahead. Okay. 多少都弄你那要塔到派个 shoulder 呢 I see Hmong people on my patient list, but I don't see them actually show up. They usually kind of chicken out. Like the Hmong people that come up probably in 10 years that I've been doing it, less than the fingers I have. And the people that needed it really, that saw me, really needed surgery. So, so that's the PA story, and I've been doing that since, and it's been good. The only reason why I can do Hmongoose because I don't depend on Hmongoose. I do it because I enjoy. I don't need to like no good Hmongoose. But you know, like I love it, and I do it because I love it. It's not. I mean, you know, people have different perspectives of it. My perspective is that I do it because I love it. I don't have to do it. Yeah, but what allows me to do it though is the fact that I don't have to do Hmongoose.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. We can certainly relate to that as well.
Yep.
So how much, so I think 2 questions. How much does it cost to go to school to become a PA? And then once you graduate, do your rounds, your residency, or whatever it is that you have to do, how much do PAs make?
So that's a great question. It depends on where you go to school. So if you go to like a public school, like a UC, then I think you can probably be done under 100. It's not cheap. If you go to private school, then you can be in the 200s. So it's basically medical school. The question is, and in regards to answer the question of how much you make, which is really an important question, it depends on what you do. And it depends on where you live. California does pay better, like the West Coast does pay better. The East Coast pays good too. The Midwest in the middle kind of so. But it depends on what you do. Statistically, most PAs practice in a surgical or emergency setting because they pay the most. So yeah, they go, you know, like you see kids that want to go to medical school and do stuff, and they say, I want to become a pediatrician. Well, pediatricians get paid the least. Like you be like 60 to 70 starting, which is not good if you have a $200,000 debt. But in a surgical and ER setting, easily starting in 6 figures. They do PA, they make more than doctors. Than certain doctors, depending on how long you've been in it and then how valuable you are. Like surgical PAs are very valuable, especially because like when we're in the ER, it's like a dance. I just know what he wants. And we just kind of move without talking. And so it's very hard to be able to do that dance well. So they really value that. So like it's a surgical PA, if you're really, really good, easily 150 or more. Like my wife was reading me a statistic that, and it's not nothing new, like consistently that one of the top jobs is always like nurse practitioner PA, like top 10 easily. PA is really cool because you're a PA, but you can do any kind of medicine you want. Doctor, take on. So like I had a friend who was doing pediatrics and emergency at the same time. And let's say if I want to change to emergency medicine, I just apply. As long as there's a physician that will teach me emergency medicine, then I'll do it. Or if I want to do like, I don't know, GI or general surgery, it doesn't really matter. So it's really a flexible job. It is hard to get into PA school though. It's getting harder and harder because to give you an idea, at our school, I went to Toro University, Mare Island in Vallejo, California, and we had a PA school and a medical school together. And so there was a DO, doctorate of osteopathic medicine, and there was a DO student who decided that they didn't want to become a doctor anymore, so they wanted to become a PA. So they're like, "Oh yeah, so I'm gonna quit." And they ended up quitting the DO medical school program and ended up applying for the PA program. Well, they absolutely did not get in because PA school is that competitive. I have met surgeons and doctors that have told me, I have confided that, man, I wish I would have become a PA instead of a doctor, because there's so much freedom and it's not as stressful. So unless you want to become the head honcho, then get your MD. But if you're happy um, becoming like a mid-level provider, and that's part of the reason why I'm really happy to become a PA, because it's not like Dr. Hurt or Hmongoose. No, there's none of that. There's not that stigma. It's just long. He's a PA. He's doing Hmongoose. The only one that's butt hurt is probably maybe my dad. I don't know. So I hope my
Yeah, and
dad
just
helps
for
see this.
anybody that's looking for, I had a friend who went to PA school, and then she actually did this program that she had to go to like rural Georgia,
Oh boy.
and I think that helped her pay for her like her
Yeah.
tuition back. And
Afterwards,
so
yes. Yep.
yeah, and so just something to consider if the price tag is a little bit high. There are
Yep.
programs, and I mean, she didn't have family, she wasn't married or anything like that, so she can kind of go work in
Yep.
backwoods Georgia, and just kind of put in the time. But I think that really helped with just the student loans.
Yeah, it's a really good profession. I would recommend it to anyone. I've helped a bunch of Hmong people get into PA school too, because you bảo chị là nuôi chị gì kia vậy, you bảo kia like I'll someone like coaching. I'll tell them no, có hay nó lấy tới phú con gà đấy họ, or
Mhm.
if you do this before PA school, they like that more. Yeah, so if anyone wants help, essentially, or like if if there are any people that are like especially like undergrad students that want to see what sports medicine is like, then they can contact me. In my 10 years of having students follow me, there's only been one person who asked. A lot of people will ask to shadow in the clinic, but there's only been one person that asked specifically to go in the OR
Wow.
and watch a surgery. So yeah, it's kind of like, you guys know, you take the initiative, then generally people are pretty receptive. But
Mhm.
people generally are a little, let's have more, let's out there. Oh, I'm not good enough to do that. But man, like if you have confidence in yourself, and then you let that be known, then a lot of people say, yeah, có sao ô chị phải nói chuyện hay bác con mà bây giờ có cho hai lưu chị chỉ muốn lưu thả lên mà never.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
And I think we had a question about, if you wanted to become a PA, what would be the steps? But I think you kind of went over that. Is there anything to add regarding that?
What was the question?
If someone wanted to become a PA, what
Mhm.
would be the steps?
Oh, so yeah, so there are some hidden steps. Yes. Basically there's every program has I would go onto the if you wanted, so every program has a different philosophy. So you want to, like, for example, when I applied at USC, you had to have 2 years of Spanish, because the loop program during the whole rotation, and learning cũng một chục phong nhiêu mùa learning sao you hai luôn mấy community na. So I remember asking them, I've got like 4 years of Hmong. They said, no, Hmong not good enough. We need Spanish. And so, number one, know where you're applying. Like, for example, Toro, their main thing is underserved communities. And so
Mhm.
when at the time I said we're Hmong, of course I didn't go to Hmong people, unfortunately, but so you have to know what the program wants. And then you get your undergrad degree, there's certain prerequisites like like your physics and whatnot, and microbiology. And then the one thing that's different from PA and medical students is they require experience. So you cannot, like, medical students, they don't have any experience. They just apply to medical school. That's all. PA, you have to have clinical hours. I mean, a lot of people are like scribes, MAs. Some of them are paramedics. So you have to have real medicine. They don't want people that are just don't know anything yet. Um, and then you finish through the program. During the program, you feel like you want to quit every day because it's that hard. Um, and then yeah, that's more or less it. There's the other stuff, like the typical interview process and whatnot. Mhm.
Awesome. Thank you I feel like this was like 3 separate interviews.
Way
You
too
know what
much
I mean?
stuff.
Because we
Way
talked
too much
about
stuff.
Paradise, we talked about Hmongoose, and then we talked about PA. And so I think that, but
Yeah.
again, that just shows like your breadth of like experience and interest and stuff like that. And I think that's also really neat. Just to, I know there was a comment about somebody saying that their friend was a PA and they've gone on wishing they could do something else. But I just feel like because of your experience and doing different things, it's like you can do, like if you're not happy somewhere, you should change. There's no point in doing something until you die just because you went
Yeah.
to school for it, right?
Yeah,
You can,
it's not for everyone. I just found that it's what's for me. And there's a comment here. Not everyone is happy. Yep. If I was to go to that other surgical setting, I would not be happy. I'm happy because of the surgeon that I'm with. You know,
yeah.
the chiyo na yekuchika, well, it's like dating, You're gonna meet the wrong person. I'm not ever gonna date again. But you meet the right person, and you're like, oh, let's get married then. Let's make this work. So
But I mean, there's a saying that we're not trees, right? So we can go wherever we want to, truly. And
yeah,
I do believe in that. And so it's not,
yeah,
I think sometimes you put a lot of time and investment into something, you feel like you have to stick it out, but if it
yeah.
doesn't make you happy, it's okay to be like, this
I
isn't
agree.
working.
I agree. Absolutely. Yep.
Um, yeah, exactly. So how can people connect with you, Long?
They can probably easiest is just either two main ways. If you want to, you can either message me on my Facebook, Long Her. Just Google that. There's a couple of Long Hers. Get the Long Her of the guy looking down on his keyboard. That's me. Or you can look up Mongoose of an H, Mongoose of an H, and you'll find me there. And usually I'm pretty open. There's some artists. I'll be honest with you. They're like, hey, you want to do a live session? I'm like, yeah, let's do a live session. And so I'm really open as long as people have something to look at where I can help them move forward. Like I'm all about helping young artists, especially. It's really fun. Okay, like promoting an artist before they get big. Like a lot of people want to like, oh, let's talk to this really famous person. I actually really like talking to people who are about to get famous or have a little bit more to go. So either Mongoose or on my long hair, and yeah, just message me. A lot of people are afraid to message me. I'm like, yeah, go ahead, no big deal. Message me.
I know.
Yeah.
I think that's where I messaged to you on your page. So he does respond. So if you have questions on Paradise, on content creating, or
Yeah.
on PA, definitely reach out to him.
Well, you guys know, like the best thing you don't as you get older, you'll find out that you don't answer the questions that are not being asked. If you know what needs to be answered, but they're not being asked, and you shouldn't answer them. But as long as people are willing to ask, then I'm not gonna hold anything back. I'll be honest. People who know me know that Gucci, I don't sugarcoat things. So yeah, I don't.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for spending this evening with us, Long, and
Very
to
good.
our audience member, thank you for being with us tonight. We have a couple of episodes next week, and so super excited. So please come back and be here with us. Of course, here at All That Talk, we believe that conversations drive change, and change starts with you. We will see y'all next week. Bye.